And welcome back to the Be the Hero channel. I'm Isabelle and I help you understand the stars so you can feel more clarity and control over your life. Now, before I dive into this astrology report on what it means to have your North Node in Gemini, specifically in the 9th house, which is very much a paradox placement, make sure you hit the link in the description below right now to book your 1-hour birth chart reading known as the Self-Revolution reading with me. Link is in the description below, and we can dive deep into this aspect if you have it and other aspects in your chart. Now, I've been doing this series kind of covering what I like to call a paradox placement, and I was going through comments right before this to find which one I had questions on next, and that was the North Node in Gemini in 9th house. Now, the reason I call this a paradox placement is because of the following. In astrology, there are two primary aspects to every placement in your chart. For example, you may know that your sun is in Leo, or your moon is in Cancer, or your Mars is in Sagittarius. But not only is there a sign that your Mars, your sun, your North Node is in, but there is also a house. And these are two very different aspects of your placements. The sign that each of your placements is in shows it the energy it embraces. The signs are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, all the way through Pisces. And these are archetypal energies that taint these parts of our personality, which are the planets. You know, Mars rules our action, the sun rules our ego, and the North Node is our highest path to growth. And so with the North Node in a certain sign, like Gemini, it means that our highest path to growth is towards Gemini's qualities. But there's also a house. And so if the sign is the energy that we embrace, or the personality that these parts of our personality take on, then the house is where in our life this shows up the most. I apologize, my camera is going to continue to shake quite a bit as a side note because I'm running the washing machine in my trailer. But back to astrology. So there's the sign and there's the house. And there are 12 houses in astrology, and they reflect the 12 zodiac signs. These 12 areas of our life reflect the 12 archetypes of the zodiac. And again, there's a primary difference. The house is the literal, tangible area of our life. The first house is our identity. The second house is our money. The third house is our communication. The fourth house is our family. Now, yes, those reflect the 4 first zodiac signs, but Aries is the archetype of leadership and independence. It's where we learn to embody these energies of assertion. Taurus is where we learn to stop and smell the roses in life. And depending on what house that's in our chart, changes where in our life we need to embrace these energies. And the reason I want to talk about why it's important to know your North Node in Gemini in 9th house is because of this big difference between the house and the sign. Oftentimes I see people learning about their North Node, and this was me, by the way, and getting really focused on the sign that it's in. So for me, I was learning about my North Node in Taurus, just focusing on the fact that it's about stopping, smelling the roses, self-worth, being more stubborn, and I wasn't really thinking about where in my life to apply that, so I became very much focused on routine and stability. But what I didn't realize was that it was in my 5th house, which meant that when it came to my sense of life enjoyment, I had to bring more stability in. I needed to learn to embrace stability in order to provide myself life enjoyment. I couldn't just keep going on routine or else it got too boring. And so it was this learning for me how to embrace both, how to embrace Taurus in the right area of life. Now, with the houses in mind, there are 12 houses that reflect 12 zodiac signs. And so each house has an associated zodiac sign. And for Gemini, its natural house would be the 3rd house. If you think about it, Aries is 1st, Taurus is 2nd house, Gemini is 3rd. The 3rd house is the house of daily communication, our everyday life. I like to think of the 3rd house simply as mindfulness. I always simplify it to say to others as our communication style in our day-to-day life. And you can see how that kind of reflects Gemini themes because Gemini is social. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's all about learning, sharing, knowledge. And then with that, opposite of Gemini is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is represented or represents the ninth house. The ninth house in astrology is the opposite of the third. So if the third house is all about our day-to-day communication, similar to Gemini, the ninth house is about our faraway voyages. This is where we explore both our mental plane and the physical plane. The ninth house is where we learn about philosophy and learn things that shape who we are. It's not just about the knowledge we share, how we communicate every day. It's about what lies deeper. This is where we find a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. We find meaning in the knowledge around us. And so if I was to summarize shortly what the ninth house represents, it is our purpose, it is philosophy, and it is learning that shapes our identity. So, it is just so confusing for most people. If they read their chart and they find that they have a north node somehow in Gemini, which is all about being more social and more down to earth in their daily life, and then the ninth house at the same time being their north node says, but travel far, it can be confusing. So what does it mean? To have a north node in Gemini in the ninth house, remember again that you're supposed to learn to embrace the energy of that archetype, but in a certain area of your life. And I know my camera's going crazy, but we're going to just talk through it. Stay with me here. I'm just going to hold my phone because this is ridiculous. I shouldn't have ran my washer. Anyway, so if you have a north node in Gemini, you are here to learn more so to enjoy knowledge for the sake of it. The south node in Sagittarius means that you are probably someone who is always looking for something more passionate in life. You are looking for the exciting ideas, the novelty. Sagittarius is the adventurer. And so if you have a south node in Sagittarius, you're probably an adventurous type. However, because this is in your third house, this most likely just plays out in your communication. If you have a south node in Sagittarius in third house, it probably is that in your day-to-day life, you tend to communicate in ways that are always talking about big picture ideas. You're always thinking, but what is there deeper? Asking people questions, asking to probe at something deeper. Someone may just say, we're having meat for dinner. And you'll say, but what is the significance of cows anyway? That's just a random example. But the north node in Gemini is to learn to acquire data without having to have meaning assigned to it. Gemini is a social butterfly, and so when that is our north node, we are called to learn for the sake of learning. While this Sagittarius only learns what brings them a sense of meaning and philosophy, Gemini focuses on more tangible facts and puts them into their filing cabinets in their heads. Sagittarius also tends to be more so life of the party if they're social, whereas Gemini is more so, in a way, selfless in their social interactions to hear what others have to say because they find joy in listening to others. Now, how do we tie the north node being in the ninth house into this? My arm's getting tired from holding my camera, so I'm scooching closer so then I can hold this camera better while my RV is shaking. So the Gemini North Node is about learning to be more simplistic in thinking, or not even so much simplistic, but to enjoy the sake of just knowing the knowledge. Instead of making things overcomplicated, always having to look for something more, you're learning that life can just be enjoyed by being social. There doesn't have to always be a meaning to things. And the best way for you to do that as a North Node in Gemini 9th house is by traveling to new places. Now, I know that sounds still counterintuitive because Sagittarius is the adventurer and that's my South Node. No. So the thing is, you are adventurous in your thinking. You tend to, in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day community, be a pioneer of thought or a pioneer of new ideas, but in your local community. And instead, you're here to learn to be social and open to possibility while outside your comfort zone in new places. And by doing so, you will learn more about yourself. You'll discover your own personal philosophy. Instead of taking the world around you and trying to make it into something greater, take the greater world around you and make it into something for yourself. Again, simply breaking down that the South Node third house means you're focused on your day-to-day community, and you can feel that you're limited by your neighbors, your day-to-day life. You need something new. And so with the North Node in ninth house, your purpose is very much to travel, to get out there, to experience the unknown. And with it in Gemini, the most important thing you can do in these travels is to ask. Talk to strangers. Spark a conversation with the person next to you on the airplane. And it doesn't have to be meaningful. It can simply just be curiosity. Gemini is all about curiosity. They follow the butterfly. They chase the butterfly knowing that they're never going to catch it. But simply the chase and the observing of it is what is enjoyable. And so with the North Node in Gemini and ninth house, your journey is much about learning to embrace the journey. Embrace the journey, embrace the unknown, and see if you can stay open, curious, and social in that unknown, as opposed to feeling like you get to be a leader of thought in your familiar comfort zone. Be open to others outside of your comfort zone. So if this video helped you understand what it means to have your North Node in Gemini in ninth house, let me know in the comments below. And if you're looking for more information on what it means to have this placement, hit the link in the description below to book a 1-hour birth chart reading with me. In these readings, we dive deep into all of your chart, and it all comes back to the North Node. I cannot help but when I look at a chart, see everything. And so if you do a reading with me, when you do a reading with me, you're going to find that everything in your life is going to be restructured around your sense of purpose, and it's going to be so much easier to manifest abundance, align with your ideal relationships, and even find a fulfilling career. So if this all sounds like things you want, book a self-revolution birth chart reading in the link in the description below labeled Book a Reading with Isabelle. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and let me know in the comments below what paradox North Node placement you want to hear about next. Once again, from my heart to yours, thank you guys so much for watching. I am Isabelle. Namaste.